Hi, good afternoon. On behalf of Chaplain Sean Lee, he's our Joint Force Headquarters Chaplain. I got elected to do this briefing for him since he's actually on, well, 10 over somewhere else. So it's a surprise last week you're doing the briefing over here. Is it great? So anything I talk about on the Partners in Care project too is really, he takes all the credit for it because he was the person who actually put this project together for the state and did a lot of things that we currently have in place for Partners in Care. So the Partners in Care program is kind of an interesting program for Maryland. If you're looking to do this in your own state, it's not one of those kinds of programs you're going to have in place that's going to solve all the problems, but it can certainly take care of a lot of the issues that our service members face. And it's the kind of project that you actually have to work with all the time. It's just not a static program that you put in place and then you have it and everybody can access it. We'll talk more about that. In fact, the way we do the project, it's a lot more controlled in terms of the access on how people get into the Partner Care Network and who actually makes the referrals and makes the initial contact with the congregations. So really what we wanted to do, and what Chaplain Lee thought about doing was, this idea that before there were all the social services around and all of the agencies that we had, every community essentially has several churches. And in many communities, they have lots of churches. And so his thinking was, why don't we tap on that, these local faith communities, to provide for our service members who are really dispersed, living in communities themselves, some connection to the community for people that they know, but who also know the local resources. So when I was a pastor in a church for many years down in Baltimore, it never ceased to amaze me how everybody knew that I had money as the priest there. So they would come, and I remember one guy would come at 11:30 every night, 12 o'clock, and he'd bang on my door. I never opened the door because it wasn't the greatest place, so I'd look out from the third floor window and I'd say, "What do you want?" He goes, "I need food." And I'd always say to him, "You know what time it is?" And he goes, "I'm homeless. I don't know what time it is." And I have to wheel down food to him to the window because he couldn't open the door in that neighborhood. But most of the people in the neighborhood knew what we had. We knew that we had money. They knew if we had a food bank. They knew if we did services for the community. And so that was the idea of kind of linking to congregations in the service members community, because they want to do things for the veterans and for the service members. You can kind of capitalize on that spread throughout your state. The other idea I think that Chaplain Lee was thinking about was if you connect individuals to some faith community, possibly they'll get some support out of that faith community and it can be part of their own support system. And we have a lot of soldiers that we've sent to congregations, and one in particular who had come back from deployment and was very disconnected because she was in Hawaii, but she was in Maryland. And so when she came back, and there was a video that was made of her South Department of Care Network, when she came back, she could not afford to bring her children back to Hawaii. So one of the congregations actually helped her, set her up an apartment, got her a job, paid for her kids to come back to the States. And that's a kind of a great example of how the Partner in Care congregations work, but it was very effective. And she stayed very connected with that congregation as well, actually moved into that community, stayed with them, and actually became a chaplain assistant, so I went to the Maryland National Guard as well. We got a great chaplain assistant. So the idea is expanding those faith-based resources. Probably the first thing that comes up when we deal with Partners in Care, especially for our new staff that come and work with us, especially in family programs. I was the SFP until last week, actually. Now the state chaplain. But most of the new staff who come on say, how are we allowed to do this? How can we make referrals to the faith-based communities? Isn't that illegal? Aren't we violating that separation of state, religion, all that good stuff? And in fact, it's not what we do. All the congregations that sign with us, that's the next one, actually do a memorandum of agreement with us. So there's no referral based on religion or any religious belief. So our composition is pretty much interfaith in terms of the congregations we have. And when this program started, it took a long time to get where we're at today. It started in 1995 with 4 pilot congregations. And as of this week, we have 98 congregations signed on in every county of Maryland. It took a long time to get to far-reaching counties. The interfaith composition of that group ranges from Mormon to Roman Catholic to Orthodox Judaism to Christian motorcycle homeless outreach group that provides tons of money to some of our service members. So it's very innovative, some of the groups that have joined these as Partner in Care partners with the state. But it's strictly voluntary. So we ask the service member when they come to us, do you want us us to make a referral to you. In my experience doing this for 7 years with the Maryland Guard, probably 25% of the soldiers will say no. They do not want me calling a church. And I'll talk to them about it because what they think is that they're going to have to go to the church and they're going to have to pray and all these kinds of things, and it never happens. We've never had a church do that with any of our referrals. But what happens is when we talk to them about what it's about, that it's voluntary, that they're not going to force their release on you, that this particular church might have this service that you need, and they're all willing to do it. And the range of service is as much as the church can provide. So usually when we sign a congregation, they'll tell us what we can do. Now when we get partner and care referrals, typically most service members want what? Cash. They want it now. So this is not the kind of program you really want to have in your state to be your crisis panacea to solve the immediate need on Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. because chances are you're not going to get the point of contact for the congregation on a Friday afternoon, and this takes a little bit of time to work through, but once you have your system down, it works pretty well. There is a memorandum of understanding that we do with each congregation that our JAG actually created with Chaplain Lee, and it's a very simple MOU. If you want copies of our booklets, you can leave me your email address, and I will send you the packets so you'll have the samples and everything as well. It's only 2 pages, very simple what they offer, what we offer, and all through the memorandum of agreement says it's not about religion, it's about referring to the needs of the service members, and they know they're not going to do that, so it works very well. I think at one point we may have had a legal challenge by someone outside the Guard saying that we were violating the Constitution by doing this. The JAG got involved, and it turned out that the person was wrong, that it stands fine. Some states don't agree. I think some states have looked at this and said they can't do it, but we're doing it and it's working. So the support is free of charge. There's no obligation to the service member. And every parish or every congregation is going to supply what they can according to their needs. So part about what we do is, as the chaplains and some of the other people who access PIC, is we have to know what the congregations offer. So if we have somebody who comes to us and says they need a car repair, we're not going to call a congregation that doesn't do car repairs. And we do have some that have mechanics, plumbers, they will offer those services free of charges to our service members, so we have to do that. Assistance is offered to anyone equally, regardless of their religious beliefs. I've never had a congregation say to me, are they Presbyterian, are they Jewish? They don't care. All they want to know that they're a valid Guard member, that they're not in trouble, and before the Guard member will even call them, we'll call the congregation first and actually introduce them to the congregation. Then we allow the Guard member to call. So the person who's the point of contact is expecting to call. So the process, some of the concerns we had when we put this together, when we first did it, and this happened to me, the UMTs, the unit ministry teams, or the RSTs from the air side, the unit commanders, and the family readiness personnel can all make these referrals. So our FACs all know how to do this, all the FAC staff. We're trying to figure out how to get the FERSs involved in that as well, but for right now it's just the FAC staff and the family program staff. The commanders haven't been the greatest in using this because the commanders forget that there's a certain process, and what they do is they just give out the list to everybody. So if a soldier comes in, some of the commanders forget, and we'll just give them the list of all the points of contact, and then the service member will start calling every congregation. And of course, almost all these congregations are trained. Don't take any referrals unless you get the introduction from us first, so they'll turn the person away. And of course, then the service member's upset because they said, hey, I tried Partners in Care and it doesn't work. Everybody told me that I couldn't call them. And then of course we explained it to them and fixed the problem. We've had a lot of individuals somehow get copies of our list. We don't know how that's happened outside of the Guard. And especially if you live in an area like Baltimore, our regional area, there were certain groups of individuals who were very good at getting resource lists and calling them for all of their things and saying things they need to say, like, hey, I'm a Guard member from this unit, and in fact they're not. So that's happened to us a couple of times. We don't know how the list got out, but it happens. So you have to really watch your list. The way we've fixed this in our state is everything's on the SharePoint. So the only folks who can get to it now will have their CAC access. So we recommend to do that. We do easy referral documentation for the individuals who do go through PIC. And this is probably the hardest part that we have in terms of getting the information back to us. So this fiscal year, we've had 98 PIC referrals that were successful. We've had many more where people have called, but because the PIC was not actually completed, we don't collect that documentation because we don't need to get the information back. The greatest need that the congregations are filling for our service members are food sometimes money. We have quite a few congregations that will give money. Gas cards for getting to work, getting to grill, telephone bills, repairs, childcare. They'll offer childcare. Not actually have someone do it, but they'll actually offer funds so the service member can get childcare. And what this has kind of done for us is we get to know the congregation more, they get to know us more, and then they start offering more services to the veteran in terms of the service members, which work out really well. This next month we'll have one congregation that will probably offer us 50 full Thanksgiving meals, which are huge. We get these huge meals from them. And that would have never happened had we not been a PIC member with that congregation. We have another group that's offering us 50 food cards, emergency food cards next week. And so those are like cash, because you know when soldiers or airmen need something, those are the best thing to have. So those really serve a great purpose. But a lot of that is coordinated through the chaplains themselves or the FACs. The FACs, I think, do quite a bit of this because they're usually the first stop, especially with end-day soldiers. They may not be seeing their chaplain until drill, or don't want to do it by phone, so they can walk into the FAC centers and do it all the time. So it works very well. Once we do on our share drive, we make it really simple. We have an easy button, and all you have to do is push the easy button, and all the information comes up. You just type in the info. It's very simple information that we gather. We don't really care about a lot about personal demographics. We just need rank, gender, what units they're from, and what they received, and all of that gets tabulated up into a database. So chaplain is able to look at that every year and give back to the TAG when the TAG wants to know what kind of things are we referring. It's interesting, the PIC congregation referrals are very similar to what we see in GFMS or FMS now. Whatever we're calling it. Same areas, legal, counseling, food, emergency resources, things like that. So they mirror very closely. Probably due to the fact that the FAC centers are much more attuned to using this and are available all the time to do it. So requirements for folks to become partner in care congregations. So it's not rocket science, I hate to say it that way on this, it's really simple to do. The real key is the congregation wants to do it. Now we've had congregations that have come to me and said, hey, I've been a partner in care congregation since 1995, I've not gotten a single referral. How come? And then I'll say, I don't know. So I look and it turns out that the point of contact information was incorrect. They had changed, they forgot to tell us. So one of the things that we have to do is we have to scrub that list constantly because things change, just like in our regional rosters, their information changes all the time. And the bigger the list becomes, the more administrative burden that we receive on having to do that. So sometimes we have extra money, we bring somebody on over so we can scrub the list and contact each congregation. But once the signed memorandum of understanding is done, we publish that on a new list. All the UMTs get it, all of the FAC centers get it, we put it on our share drive, so everybody who's using it will know that there's a new congregation out there. And of course, if anybody does referral work, what does it mean when you have a new resource? You make lots of referrals in the new resource, and that's usually what happens. So they get bombarded because they're new, so obviously they haven't heard from the guard yet, and it's had a lot of money. We have had some congregations do some really innovative things for some of our service members. I'm sure a lot of your states have had when we had the ADOS thing where we had to take people off of ADOS because of the money issues. A couple of our congregations stepped up and put up sizable amounts of money for the soldiers to get their paychecks while they got through that transition. We didn't even ask for it. They just heard about stuff in the news and started calling and saying, what can we do for these individuals? So we're able to refer a couple of folks to do that. So every congregation, once we get their information after the MOU is done, we'll meet with them. We do a really public kind of award ceremony with them. They'll get a very special presentation from the state chaplain. Sometimes the TAC may be involved. And it will be in front of their congregation. So the entire congregation knows that they're one of our PIC congregations and they're supporting guard members. The other thing is what they'll do, they'll tell us what they can offer. So some congregations will say we cannot give you money. And that's fine, because there's a lot of other services that they might be able to do. They might be able to do tax services. They may have attorneys that want to do pro bono legal services. In one of our rural counties, one of our difficulties is that we have no mental health services in one particular county, or it's very difficult to obtain. So one of our PIC congregations, both of their pastors are licensed mental health professionals, and so they take care of all our mental health referrals in that county. So they PIC side of it. They can also do the mental health side and do a lot of counseling for us. Next one. Some of the things that we provide for all the commanders, as well as for the congregations and anyone who has access, is we put together a very simple resource manual for them. And that's really the basic information on how to access it. All the chaplains have them, all the family assistance centers have them. And essentially what we put in are all of these different things. We'll put the congregational resource manual, who all the congregations are, who the points of contacts are, what you can access through, and it's easy to find, you flip through it. We give them our UMT resource manuals, because many times congregations will call us, and they'll say, hey, we have a service member, really is in a crisis, walked in here. We do have our service members walk into churches, and then they know who to call as well. We give them all the emergency, crisis, multi-crisis mental health teams in the area. We give them our fact centers, so all of the resources that we have, we give to them as well, and we update that regularly. And then we also have a unit command resource manual, so they know who the current contacts are at the command. In case they get called and someone says, I'm the commander, that might not, they can actually check all that information. And then we have SOPs for each of those. Very simple, easy to read, it's not a huge book this big, it's probably the meat of the binders, maybe a quarter of the information, so it's very simple to use. Some of the things that we do for the partners themselves by giving them all that information, we also provide for them on a regular basis special trainings, recognition dinners, bring them all together, we'll bring in special speakers to talk about mental health in the military, suicide updates. So they get a lot of things from us as well that they might not necessarily get from the community. The fact that a lot of the pastors need some continuing education requirements, that it really helps them out as well. It also gives us a chance to kind of see them face to face and for them to see us face to face, especially with all of the UMTs present and their clergy can meet our clergy, and that works out really well. And that's it. Questions for me? Very simple. I have like 10 minutes left if you have any questions. Yes?
What about how do you control repeat customers? Somebody that's constantly going to this kind of service?
We don't. We don't really have repeat customers.
If somebody is in need of money or food, is it an ongoing problem that needs to be addressed someplace else so that it isn't an ongoing problem, or is it just
Yeah, because the facts are usually involved, and because we are resource rich in the Baltimore area, which is kind of helpful for us. So we have a lot of organizations that we can use. Sometimes I think because we have so many readily access resources that people forget to use them. It's like, because it's harder, it's not easy to do. It's, you just don't call them and set a person that way. You have to talk to the person, you have to tell them what's going on, and you have to have the person call over. So that can take some time doing that. If you've ever called a point of contact in a church, they don't sit in the church waiting for you, so that can take, couple of follow-up calls. But we usually don't have soldiers. I have never had a soldier go multiple times to a church. It just hasn't happened. I can't tell you why. Usually by the time they get what they need from me, they're back with the fact. And our facts are very good about letting them repeat services to certain places. Like our emergency relief fund in Maryland is very strict. It's one time a year. And then even after a year, they may not let the person come back again, regardless of the circumstances, because they're limited in their fund.
Yeah, we have financial assistance in Vermont that you applied for, and it's not you have to go and meet with the financial planner to try to work out some budgeting so that this issue doesn't come up again. It's not most of the time here.
It works well. It's just one of those things that we always have to remind everybody that it's available. As a chaplain, there's other chaplains in here. We're always not thought of until you need us. There's other things we can do in a proactive way. So if you decide to do a Partners in Care project in your state, you just got to always be on top of it to tell people this is available. And it works out really well for the service members. It's kind of, it's really low threat for them to go there once they learn how it works. They don't really feel like, they're going to come at me with Bibles or prayer books or something like that.
Do the chaplains go out to ask the different congregations if they're interested in?
We do. So from our own individual contacts, we can refer people to Chaplain Lee. Like I'll talk to the congregations on Idaho and I'll say, hey, there's this program. Are you interested in helping them out? And I'll tell them, and they go, oh, yeah, great. And they'll do things like that. One congregation I was talking to really didn't know outreach to the community at all. They didn't believe in that. And then after we talked to them, they really stepped up a lot of services. They even thought about giving 10% of their funds collected to that. So I was like, wow, we should give it to us. So they really did a lot of services. But
So
yeah.
I'm an AFR, yeah, so I'm not gonna be going out, I shouldn't be going out and asking congregations.
No, we don't go out, and I don't like make cold calls at doors and say, hey.
Yeah, we got it.
But if I'm, like I was asked to do a talk for Veterans Day talk at a congregation, because they just started doing that on the list, and I was the first one to answer the phone. So they said, can you come and talk to our kids about veterans? And I said, sure. So I came out and talked, and I said, hey, why don't you become a big congregation? They go, what's that? I'll give you all the information. They went, sure, okay. So we'll work on it.
Run it out of his office.
Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. Number one, the MOUs, would it be on the state or for us, for instance, we have 3 wings in our state, would it be a wing MOU? And second is we don't have a full-time chaplains in our wing. So where do we get that resources from? From the state if possible? I mean, I don't know.
First question, the MOU is for the whole state, the air and the Army side use it because the adjutant general is the one. who puts it
So it would be
together.
on the state
Yeah.
level.
And most of our chaplains are all MD, other than our state chaplain. But the state chaplain is really there for the full-time force, so it's not just you pick. So most of this is done by our chaplains in MD status. We just all do this as part of what we're doing. So, yeah, you can do it. You can do it with MD.
How you doing, Chaplain? Delaware, our joint chaplain just did a Guard 101. He invited all the local church leadership to come to hear our adjutant general brief on the Guard, to educate the chaplain, or the religious corps about what the Guard does. And the reciprocity was they were very excited to be there and ask questions on how can we serve you? How can we serve your Delaware National Guard? So, you know, it's that kind of, we did the outreach initially just to educate them about the Guard, but it just multiplied from there to gain new partners in care.
Yeah, and this is just one piece, you know, in the JCF picture, this is just going to be one piece. This works great for accreditation, because like I said, I've done this. And it fits right nicely in there for the community collaborative stuff, and I didn't have to do anything with the SFP, you know, they just pull it all together. But it's one piece, so it can't stand on its own, so I just want to caution you that you can't do everything. And our staff will sometimes say that to me, like, this thing is no good, it doesn't help me, because they're using it for crisis work, and it's not designed for that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chaplain. The outreach kind of works both ways. We had a congregation actually approach us through our Survivor Outreach Services program. They had worked with actually it was a Marine family. They were happy how we were able to assist this Marine family. And as a result, now every year they come to us offering, originally it was like food and stuff like that, but now they get gas cards and food cards and all that because they understand that the need is not necessarily just during the holiday time.
Right.
So now they've asked us to have someone, they wanted a soldier to come and speak to them, so we decided, you know, maybe a chaplain might be a good one. So it's a perfect fit, and you're writing again for accreditation. My question is, how do you recognize, where do you get the funding for it to do these recognitions?
From the state military department, so they'll do it. They'll provide the food, the venue for us. They'll do the plaques and any of the awards on the military. Yeah. So we have the Maryland Military Department. We have the military side, so the Maryland Military Department will do that as part of the TAG's office. Our TAG is also a cabinet member level person, so there's more of a connection there. The other thing too, I should mention, because it's not in this brief, but we have a fairly robust Maryland, oh gosh, what do we call it? The MDDF, the Maryland Defense Force. Our Maryland Defense Force has about 8 or 9 chaplains as well. So they're full-fledged chaplains on the Defense Force side. So besides our regular chaplains, we have double the amount of chaplains because of the MDDF. So our outreach is even greater. And most of our MDDF chaplains are in full-time congregations. So they have a lot of connections. Like one is Episcopal, he connects to all the Episcopal churches and gets 5 Episcopal churches for us to join. And, you know, so we have some fairly low-density faith groups represented, like we have the Eastern Orthodox taken care of, we've got an Orthodox Jewish congregation. So it's a wide spread of congregations that can do things. And one of the things we also do for the soldier or the airmen, we ask them to access their own faith group first. I mean, that's one of our checks and balances. So we'll say, do do you have a faith community? If they say yes, we'll say, you access that first. We actually have a schematic that the FAC has to go to. And then they call their church first, and if their church says no, then they can come back to us. We don't want to take the place of the church that they're part of, that's why. So,
That's a question, I might have missed it. Are you as a chaplain allowed to give cards in your school?
now, they come to the state, and then they hold them, and they distribute them as they need them. So,
The
yeah.
state attorney?
Maryland Military Department side takes it. Yeah, I don't know if other places have a military side, how they do their stuff. It's more of a civilian where our civilian employees are. Yeah, I don't touch gas cards, I don't
I
touch
didn't think so,
gift
but it
cards.
sounded like you, as I saw.
We have access to get them now. Yeah. And we've actually, a couple of things we've done even through HIP as well as on our family side, is we'll just, VFWs will take them. So we'll just say, go to VFW, and they'll have cards, so it works easier. A lot of our churches will keep the gas cards themselves, and we'll tell the person who have to go to the congregation, don't keep the card. And that works out fine as well. Because it's money.
Yes.